working to connect a region of over 600 mil bridges between our lands.
Good evening, I'm Alma Angeles and you're watching ASEAN in Focus. On tonight's headlines. A United States governor has again met Taiwan's president days after Washington announced trade talks with Taipei in a show of support following China's military threats toward the self-ruled island. Indonesia has recorded its first case of monkeypox in a 27-year-old man who returned from traveling overseas. Authorities in Phnom Penh said dozens of Vietnamese casino workers, allegedly forced to toil without pay in Cambodia, have fled back to their homeland by swimming across a river. And later, experience an enchanting tour of the Philippines' largest terrestrial protected area through this immersive video from the Department of Tourism of the Samar Island Natural Park. Tonight in our news, the United States governor met Taiwan's president today, days after Washington announced trade talks with Taipei. This is in a show of support following China's military threats toward the self-ruled island. Let's listen in.
There are more opportunities ahead of us than I think there ever have been before for us to continue to strengthen and cultivate and nurture this relationship. As our economies grow and grow together, we will continue to seek to build strategic partnerships with you.
Eric Holcomb, the Republican governor of the U.S. state of Indiana, landed in Taiwan on Sunday for an economic development trip. He said, "I landed in Taipei to kick off an economic development trip in Taiwan, South Korea. Indiana's home to 10 Taiwanese, 12 South Korean businesses, and this week marks my second trip to South Korea as governor. And I'm proud to be the first governor to visit Taiwan since before the pandemic," he said, "and I'm committed to building an economy of the future with these global partners who are helping propel Indiana forward by creating tomorrow's businesses today." Holcomb is also expected to meet representatives of Taiwan's world-leading semiconductor industry before leaving on Wednesday for South Korea. Alongside South Korea, Taiwan makes some of the world's smallest and most advanced computer chips, a commodity that is vital for electronics but in short supply worldwide. Holcomb's visit comes on the heels of the announcement of trade talks between Washington and Taipei in the coming months, as a senior U.S. diplomat warned Beijing will continue to put pressure on Taiwan. In her meeting with Holcomb on Monday, President Tsai Ing-wen directly referenced Beijing's drills and called for like-minded countries to continue supporting Taiwan. In her meeting with Holcomb, President Tsai Ing-wen directly referenced these drills, and he called on them to continue supporting the self-ruled island. Presently, she said, "We are facing the continued expansion of global authoritarianism." She said Taiwan has been confronted by military threats from China in and around the Taiwan Strait. And at this moment, democratic allies must stand together and boost cooperation across all areas. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan caused a massive uproar in China, who accused the U.S. of stoking tensions in the region. In retaliation to the visit, China conducted a number of military drills near the Taiwan Strait border, and a number of aircrafts even breached the country's airspace. President Bongbong Marcos Jr.'s administration has emphasized that the Philippines continues to be a friend of both China and the U.S. Meanwhile, Indonesia has recorded its first case of monkeypox in a 27-year-old man who returned from traveling overseas, according to the country's health ministry. Indonesian Health Minister spokesperson Mohammed Sairil said the patient had a high awareness and knowledge of the disease. So when he got the symptoms, he immediately checked it with the doctor and the result came back positive within a day, Cyril told reporters, adding that the man was now in isolation in the capital, Jakarta. Symptoms of monkeypox, which is endemic in parts of Central and Western Africa, include lesions, fever, muscle ache, and chills. It has only been fatal in rare cases. The patient arrived in Indonesia on August 8 and developed symptoms of fever and rashes a week later. The ministry spokesperson declined to identify the country from where the man had traveled to Indonesia. Elsewhere in Southeast Asia, Singapore has confirmed more than a dozen cases. The Philippines and Thailand have also recorded their first cases. The U.S. has recorded thousands of cases. Meanwhile, here's Dr. Edsel Salvana to give us an update on the monkeypox situation in the country. Let's listen in.
Itong monkeypox kasi, mas mabagal talaga siya kaysa sa COVID. It takes up to mga 3 weeks bago lumabas yung symptoms kung ang isang tao ay nahawa. And alam naman natin na it's not as contagious as COVID. So mabagal yung pagkahawa, mabagal rin yung paglabas ng symptoms, and so we expect na mas mabagal rin yung pag-detect ng mga ito. Bagamat yun nga, we know that it is spreading. There's some indications rin na merong asymptomatic spread. So kinakailangan talaga natin mas paigtingin pa yung ating mga protocols at yung pag-detect rin po ng mga ganitong kaso, maging mas vigilant po. The good thing is, yung mga protocols natin na ginagamit natin para sa COVID, meron naman po itong sa monkeypox. So hopefully that's part of the reason why mas mabagal yung pagkalat. Mga ganitong klaseng diseases, and unprecedented nga itong nakita natin sa monkeypox dahil usually endemic lang ito sa mga iba't ibang bansa sa Africa. At ngayon, yung pinapakita niyang pagkalat ay kakaiba. Kaya nga dineclare ng WHO na public health emergency of international concern. Bagamat we have more tools and we already have existing vaccines and meron din na napatunayang mabisa na gamot, hindi pa naman foregone conclusion na magiging endemic ito sa mga iba't ibang bansa. Dahil hindi naman this is not a new disease. It's just showing some novel characteristics, pero yung mga tools natin ay much more advanced than what we had for COVID. So I don't think it's a foregone conclusion. We'll probably see more cases over time, but as long as we do our job and we continue to monitor, hindi pa naman sigurado na magiging endemic to sa Pilipinas.
According to Stat News, there are 3 ways of exposure to the virus, or 3 ways exposure to the virus can result in infection. 1 is direct skin contact with lesions caused by the virus, contact with contaminated surfaces, and contact with respiratory secretions such as saliva from someone who has a lesion in their mouth or throat. And so far, monkeypox's primary mode of transmission seems to be through direct skin contact with lesions. Brief contact is unlikely to facilitate spread. Repeated touching or rubbing is likely required. Although it's not a sexually transmitted disease, most cases in this current outbreak have occurred through sexual contact, particularly among men who have sex with men. In tonight's other news, Press Secretary Trixie Cruz Angeles has recovered from COVID after testing positive for the disease on August 15. Negative na, meaning I'm negative now, she said in a post in her official Facebook account. In a message to reporters, Cruz Angeles said she now feels energetic. She attended Monday's flag-raising ceremony and is now back to work. In a press briefing on Thursday, Cruz Angeles said she could not entertain more questions from reporters because she felt like she was developing symptoms of COVID. Prior to this, she said she was asymptomatic or did not exhibit any symptoms. She later clarified that she was feeling tired as she was still doing her job as press secretary. Cruz Angeles carried out functions virtually last week, and despite contracting COVID, she virtually attended the Senate Committee on Public Information and Mass Media hearing on August 15. Cruz Angeles also held online press briefings and regularly posted updates on social media. Staying in the country, the Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology raised the alert level over Mayon volcano to 1, following what it said was low-level unrest. PHIVOLCS came to the conclusion after ground deformation was observed on top of some low-frequency volcanic earthquakes earlier this year. PHIVOLCS said through visual and camera monitoring, it detected that the remnant lava dome emplaced towards the end of the 2018 eruption has undergone a change in morphology and slight extrusion between June 6 and August 20 of this year. It said the short-lived spikes in the number of low-frequency volcanic earthquakes were detected from May 26 to June 20. It also said that these observation parameters indicate that volcanic gas-induced pressurization at the shallow depths of the edifice may be occurring, causing the summit dome of Mayon to be pushed out. PHIVOLCS reminded the public that entry into the 6-kilometer permanent danger zone of the Mayon volcano is strictly prohibited. The death toll from a Thai nightclub inferno has risen to 20, according to health officials, as victims continue to receive medical treatment. The blaze broke out August 5 at the Mountain Bee Club in Chonburi Province, roughly 150 kilometers southeast of Bangkok. Take a look. Authorities found that 13 charred bodies were inside the venue. Chonburi Provincial Public Health Office said 7 others have since died from their injuries, with the latest fatality a 50-year-old man. All the victims were Thai nationals. There are 25 injured who are still receiving medical treatment in hospitals, with 9 on ventilators. A Chonburi Province senior police officer confirmed that the club owners, a father and son, have been charged with causing death through recklessness and operating a pub without a license. He also said they could face more charges related to building safety and social security of employees. Both have been released on bail by the local court for now. Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha has ordered an investigation into this tragedy. Flammable acoustic foam on the walls of the club accelerated the blaze, and it took firefighters more than 3 hours to bring it under control. In tonight's other news, 5 Hong Kongers have been arrested for allegedly setting up job scams in which victims were lured to Southeast Asia and then held against their will, according to police. In recent months, victims have reported traveling to countries such as Myanmar, Cambodia, Thailand, and Laos on false promises of romance or high-paying jobs, and then being detained and forced to work. On Thursday, authorities set up a task force to help trafficked residents who had fallen prey to these scams. Almost all of the 36 requests for police help were related to job scams, according to Tony Ho, Senior Superintendent of the Organized Crime and Triad Bureau. Ho said Monday, police have arrested 3 men, 2 women suspected of tricking Hong Kongers into accepting highly unrealistic job offers abroad. 22 victims are still believed to be ensnared in Cambodia and Myanmar, and 9 among them have not contacted their families or the Hong Kong police. Ho said the victims were given flight tickets, and most had their passports taken when they landed before being sent to a scam center and forced to defraud others. Human rights lawyer Patricia Ho said that Hong Kong's existing laws were not enough to tackle such scams, as the city had no legislation that specifically outlawed human trafficking and forced labor. Authorities in Phnom Penh said dozens of Vietnamese casino workers, allegedly forced to toil without pay in Cambodia, have fled back to their homeland by swimming across a river. About 40 staff with the Golden Phoenix Entertainment Casino in Candle Province, which neighbors Vietnam, fought off security guards to escape, leaving 1 missing after being swept away by the current, according to Vietnamese state media. These people might have been here working illegally, according to Cambodian Interior Minister Sar Keng. He said they were promised salaries, but they did not get what they were promised, and they crossed back to Vietnam because they couldn't reach a deal, they fled the place. He also said Cambodian police had detained a casino manager and were investigating the incident. One 20-year-old victim said casino security guards attacked the group with batons and iron sticks as they tried to flee. Vietnamese Police Colonel Din Van Noy said the 35 men and 5 women had been questioned and tested for COVID after crossing the Binh Die River, which acts as a natural border and is 230 feet at its narrowest point. He told state media the group were forced to work long hours at the casino and were not paid what they were owed. According to official media, about 250 other Vietnamese workers were rescued from unscrupulous employers in Cambodia in the first half of this year. Cambodian authorities have launched nationwide immigration checks aimed at cracking down on human trafficking networks following widespread reports of people from other Southeast Asian countries being tricked into migrating job opportunities billed as lucrative. UN Rights Chief Michelle Bachelet said that it remained unsafe for Rohingya refugees to return to their homes in Myanmar, nearly 5 years after a crackdown there sparked an exodus to neighboring Bangladesh. Take a look.
So we are here in Cox's Bazar, where so many people from Myanmar, Rohingya people from Myanmar, after terrible repression and violation of the human rights, had to flee here to get some safety. There's estimated 1.1 million Rohingyas are in Bangladesh right now, many in Cox's Bazar, some other in Bhasan Char. We've been able to talk to her. They describe their grievances, their pains they had to leave, how they left and lost everything they had, their livelihoods, many of them also the loving persons, and how they have received shelter here in Bangladesh in this Cox's Bazar camp that the United Nations with other partners, NGOs, have been supporting with services.
Fortunately, the current situation across the border means that the conditions are not right for returns. Repatriation must always be conducted in a voluntary and dignified manner, only when safe and sustainable conditions exist in Myanmar. I'm very worried about increasing anti-Rohingya rhetoric in Bangladesh, stereotyping and scapegoating Rohingya as the source of crime and other problems. A lot of focus on Xinjiang, but this is the time to focus on Bangladesh and the Rohingyas. But I have to say, what I said when I informed that I was not going to look for a renewal of my mandate, I was asked about this, and what I said in that time, I will do it. I will keep my promise.
Nearly 1 million members of the mostly Muslim minority live in a sprawling and squalid patchwork of refugee settlements near Bangladesh's southern coast. Most fled their homes after a 2017 Myanmar army offensive that is now subject to a landmark genocide case in the UN's top court. 5 years later, the refugees refused to go home in the absence of guarantees for their safety and rights in Myanmar, which is now ruled by a military junta after the ouster of its civilian government last year. Bachelet is on a 4-day visit to Bangladesh before her term as UN High Commissioner for Human Rights ends later this month. President Bongbong Marcos Jr. welcomed the return of learners to face-to-face classes after 2 years of school closures due to the COVID pandemic, saying that learning is more effective inside classrooms. I welcome the return of our children to full face-to-face classes after 2 years of online learning due to the pandemic, Marcos said in a statement posted in the official Facebook page of the Office of the President. He also said that it was always his belief that learning is more effective inside classrooms where students fully interact with their teachers and fellow students. The president also reminded teachers and students to observe minimum public health standards such as mask wearing, hand washing, and physical distancing. President Marcos also expressed confidence that with Vice President Sara Duterte heading the Department of Education, the students will finally get the quality education they deserve. And the news continues here on ASEAN in Focus. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. A complete count of the number of ASEAN nationals working and living in the region who were displaced by the pandemic has yet to be attempted. However, it has already become clear that the job losses have been enormous. Watch this. Asian markets were broadly lower today as the rally from June's lows runs out of steam owing to renewed concerns about Federal Reserve plans to ramp up interest rates to combat runaway inflation. Optimism has slowly been eroded in recent weeks as Fed officials, including Fed boss Jerome Powell, have warned that the battle against inflation was far from won, particularly as the jobs market remained resilient. Let's take a look back.
We think that there's a path for us to be able to bring inflation down while sustaining a strong labor market. As I mentioned, along with, in all likelihood, some softening in labor market conditions. So that's what we're trying to achieve, and we continue to think that there's a path to that. We know that the path has clearly narrowed, really based on events that are outside of our control, and it may narrow further.
Now, all eyes are on a symposium in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, where he will deliver a speech that will be followed for an idea about the bank's next moves. A dip in price rises and signs of economic slowdown had raised hopes policymakers would ease up and possibly cut next year after two successive 75 basis point hikes, helping equities rally globally. Hong Kong, Tokyo, Sydney, Seoul, Taipei, Manila, and Jakarta dropped. However, Shanghai rose after China's central bank cut prime loan rates as it tries to bolster the world's second biggest economy, which has been ravaged by lockdowns across the country as part of leaders' zero COVID strategy. Singapore and Wellington also edged up. The global community celebrated International Youth Day on August 12, which serves as a reminder of the vital role of the ASEAN youth in building a better tomorrow. In the region, the youth comprise 1/3 of the total population, with over 213 million people aged between 15 to 34 years old. With this in mind, the center is spearheading the Young ASEAN Storytellers, or YAS program, where 20 creative young ASEAN citizens showcased their skills and talents in storytelling through innovative forms while shedding light on the importance of the innate connection between ASEAN's people and biodiversity. Mika Tan, coordinator of the YAS program, also shared that the youth are a vital part of the solution in biodiversity conservation and have a unique quality of using technology to break barriers and inspire and connect with communities. The Philippines' Princess Mary Superal secured her first ever international golf title, beating a tough crowd that included major winners at the Simone Asia Pacific Cup in Indonesia. The inaugural competition, which drew a field of 40 top players, was the first event in the country since the 2012 Indonesia Ladies Open and offered a total individual prize pot of $500,000. Superal 25 roared to victory with a 5-under par romp around the Pondok Indah Golf Course in Jakarta to finish 12 under, 3 shots clear of South Korea's former U.S. Open winner So Yeon Ryu and 4 clear of world number 4 New Zealand's Lydia Ko. World number 8 Yoo Joo Kim finished 11 shots behind the Filipina winner. World Wushu Kung Fu Day was celebrated in Papua New Guinea along with other sports activities. Here's Echo Ortelesa Quinola reporting from Papua New Guinea.
Youth residents of the capital city of Papua New Guinea are the center of attention as Port Moresby's Active City Development Program hosts International Youth Day and World Wushu Kung Fu Day. Director Fazila Bazari invites the Papua New Guinea Shaolin Kung Fu Wushu masters and students to remind the youth of the importance of life, health, and hard work to thrive in one's field. Sports manager Kila Dick encourages the young women to learn self-defense strategies.
Sports is a very powerful influence in Port Moresby as well as the country. Sports in Papua New Guinea is a meta activity. And we have a lot of young people going to sports to showcase their potential. For me, I see the importance of self-defense for both men and women, for them to defend themselves, particularly women, because we have violence in our city and around the country. So, to protect their families and protect themselves, it's relevant for the young girls to come and do this training.
Other physical exercises showcased this day are dances, circus, kickboxing, and karate. Empowering youth mentally, physically, and emotionally truly helps create a safe, smart, and healthy community. Echo Hortaleza Quinola, Port Moresby, Papua New Guinea, Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
And finally, experience an enchanting tour of the Philippines' largest terrestrial protected area through this immersive video from the Department of Tourism. And this is the Samar Island Natural Park. Take a look. Amid the vast tree-blanketed landscape are soothing waterfalls, expansive rivers and caves, including the Langun Gobing-Gobob system, the largest cave system in the country. The Samar Island, which spreads over the 3 provinces of Eastern Samar, Northern Samar, and Samar, is highlighted in the Year of the Protected Areas, or YOPA campaign, that encourages sustainable ecotourism activities to help conserve the Philippines' protected areas. YOPA is a campaign of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, or DENR, the Department of Tourism, the Department of Interior and Local Government, and the Biodiversity Finance Initiative, or BioFin, of UNDP Philippines. And that is the latest news here on ASEAN in Focus. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Alma Angeles. Stay in the news because we live in extraordinary times. Good night.